most of the time when I begin a layout, I have a general idea of what I'm going to be doing with the design. I did in this case, however, it wasn't a very solid plan, and I think that tripped me up because I do struggle through this page all the way through. Thankfully, in the end, it turns out great, and I'm glad I stuck with it, but you know what? That's just part of the process. Sometimes it flows seamlessly, and sometimes it doesn't. Hi guys, I'm Jana Eubank, and I'm back again today with another scrapbooking process video using the Pinkfresh Studio Flower Market collection. Now, when I had begun this page, I had these three photos. I had two smaller photos and then one larger photo. In the back of my mind, I was thinking that I would have the two smaller photos step down towards the larger photo in a diagonal flow. However, when I placed them on the page, I decided that, well, maybe I want to put these in two blocks, keeping the two smaller photos together in the top row and then placing the larger photo in the bottom row. I was also drawn to this cut apart paper with the card that says "It's a good day to be happy," and thought that I might be able to use that as a title block along with that orange card accenting it. So I placed a white cardstock coming in off of the right edge with about 1-inch border around the top, left, and bottom edges, and this was my plan starting out. Here I am just flipping through the die cuts, deciding which ones might look good with my colors or might fit in the spaces that I have going. Now, I like how this is going so far, but it feels very blocky. It feels very sectioned out, and so I'm not totally in love with it, but I'm going to keep working through it. First, I mat the smaller photos on that blush daisy pattern, and I didn't have enough to mat the larger photo on that blush daisy pattern, but I'm going to fix that in the end. Next, I went through the die cuts like I mentioned. First, there's a regular die cut pack, and then now I'm going through the floral die cuts. This was a really fun memory. It was springtime, and so I thought all of these floral die cuts would make a great accent, especially to go along with my daughter's light blue dress that she's wearing. As I continued to go, I think, well, maybe I should anchor the photos with a floral piece of paper. So I try that out for a minute, and then I decide, well, if I'm going to be putting in lots of floral die cuts, then I probably shouldn't add in floral paper as well, because then they will start competing. So I'm going to set that aside in a moment, and then for now, I am starting to mat the largest photo with that blush daisy paper. Again, I didn't have a piece big enough to mat that paper, so I'm actually piecing together a mat with a strip of the gray and white polka dot paper, which is on the back of the cut apart cards. You don't really notice this in the end because I will be covering the entire bottom edge of that photo with floral die cuts. But if you ever run into an issue with matting like this, just piece one together. The two patterns look really cute as well. After I have matted that main photo on the blush daisy and gray dots, I matted it again on that blue pattern paper. And now I'm thinking about adding a cut apart card as a layer behind that main photo just to set it apart a little bit more. So I tried those yellow pieces, but I really love that blush daisy pattern. So I had just a few little scraps left. I decided to cut it in half, and I'm going to have a little piece of it sticking out from either side, and that will finish out the matting for that large photo. I like how the stacked papers call attention to that main photo, so I'm going to move on from there and start playing with some embellishments. I am going to toy around with the idea of having those smaller photos step down towards the main photo. And I'm going to start bringing in some floral die cuts and audition them in several places around the layout. As I work with each of these flower clusters, trying to combine them together to make larger floral clusters, I'm trying to watch the colors and make sure that I have a little bit of yellow in each set of flowers, as well as blue and pink, so it feels balanced overall. As I play with the florals and try them in different areas around the page, I start to remember that if I'm going to have my directional flow begin in the upper left corner and go in a diagonal down towards the main photo, then my embellishments should follow that line as well. So I'm going to move these smaller florals over to the top left corner of the first photo, and then the second cluster at the bottom of those small photos will bring your eye towards the last floral cluster, which is down in the bottom right corner. I think that was a good decision, and that's where it starts feeling like it's really starting to come together. As I start to put those flower clusters there, I'm realizing that if I have that main photo pushed all the way to the right edge of the layout, it's going to have the flowers bleeding off of the page, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to fix, quote unquote, this white cardstock to make it a square by adding these striped strips to the top and bottom. So before it was about a 10 by 11 piece, and now I'm adding those striped strips in to make it 11 by 11 again. I'm going to go ahead and tack these floral clusters in place with some liquid glue, and then I will adhere them to the photos so that I can keep moving on. Now, this is where you can see my indecision, where I have to keep pushing paper around and keep trying things, because even though I think in the back of my mind I'm going to do this diagonal flow, I'm still toying with the idea of having a top row and a bottom row of photos. So I grabbed some more of those cut apart cards, and I'm just, placing that pink Polaroid one there in the top. I'll place it in the bottom, and I'm just trying it out to see, okay, is this really what I want to do? Or I don't know, how is this going to work? So I don't know if you do this, but I have to push those papers around a lot until I finally commit. I've had friends at Crops kind of make fun of me because of that, because I don't know, I have to keep trying it and seeing which one feels the best. So that's what I'm doing here. In fact, I'll add in these tags at the top of the main photo to see if I like those there even. And finally, after doing that for a while, I'm like, okay, I just need to back out for a minute. I know these florals are going to stay on that diagonal line, so let's step away from it for a minute and go add some stitching to this background panel. So that's what I do. I went ahead and gutted the blue pattern in the very background so that I could use it on another page, and then I added that white block in the center with the striped strips across the top and bottom. You can see that I did a zigzag stitch across the top and bottom, and then I did a straight stitch on the side. So I had adhered all the florals to the photos. I replaced them there, and now I'm going to start trying out this circle idea where I place all these layered circles behind the photos in that diagonal flow. And even now, I'm not exactly sure if this is what I want to do. So I'm just going to cut several circles from these pattern papers and see how they feel. I grabbed that floral paper from before to cut a few circles from, and I ran into the same problem where here I have a multicolored floral paper with the floral die cuts, and so I just flip it over and I go, oh, there was the yellow geometric pattern on the other side. I'm like, that actually works pretty well. So I go to my scraps and I find this green paper. This is actually the one with the border around it. And I cut a couple of circles from that, a larger one and a smaller one, and that works pretty well. And then I go back to that floral paper thinking I want to add a third yellow circle in, so I have a visual triangle around the page. And then I also cut a couple from that blue and green houndstooth pattern. So I have a few geometric patterns that are in two different scales, the large yellow one and then the small houndstooth one. And as I play with these circles, I realize that that third yellow circle actually looks a bit blobby, I guess, or too heavy all around that bottom main photo. So I'm just going to push these circles around for a minute, and then what I finally figure out is that, you know what, I just need 3 circles around each of the photos. And I do flip this one over to the floral side, and I count that large yellow floral in the bottom right corner as the visual triangle for that balances out the 2 yellow geometric circles. So I hope that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling here, but I like how that looks. So I go ahead and trace around them with pencil. I label them, and then I took the circles over to my sewing machine and added a straight stitch around each of those edges. On the back of the circles, I labeled which one went where so I could replace them in the right spot. And I also I just scribbled like a upward arrow so I knew which part of the circle was the top. And then you can see on those circles, I also added lines showing where the edges of the photos are. So I'm just going to take a minute and get this all back into place. And the squiggle lines or the pencil lines really saved me here. And once I have everything arranged, I will go back and erase those pencil lines. Now, if you're curious about the sizes of circles that I did, if you want to replicate this look, I did a 3.5-inch circle in that multicolored floral to the left of the main photo. I did 2 yellow geometric circles at 3 3/4 inches. I did one 4.5-inch houndstooth a circle, and then one 4.5-inch green floral circle, and then the largest floral circle, the green floral circle, is 5.5 inches. I really loved that gathering memories phrase, so that was the one I was trying to put at the top of the second photo before I moved to the flowers. Thankfully, it finally found a home in the top right corner of the main photo. Earlier, I had placed this key fob die cut to the left of the small photos, and I'm going to go ahead and add some white twine to that to bring a bit of texture to the top of the page. I'm also going to bring in this bicycle die cut. I think that, I don't know, it just feels kind of like the time period of swing dancing, so and also spring, so I think that works there. And then because I added that white twine in the top left corner of the photo, I'm going to balance it with some white twine in the bottom right corner. And how I'm going to do that is have these two tags peeking out from the right edge of the main photo, and then I'll just add a little bit of twine to those two tags. I'm going to loop the twine around the gray tag, and then around the blue tag I'm going to loop it, but then I'm going to tie that one into a bow, and so I'll have a little bit of variety there with the bow and the loop on those two tags. I'm ready to go ahead and add this bicycle die cut, so I'll add that in the bottom left corner of the photo. I'm also going to add a phrase to the right side of that bicycle and actually move it over a little bit in a minute. So I'm just trying out some phrases around the page. I chose that cream happy day phrase to underline the first photo, and then I'm going to add that blue one that says "This was a special day" to the right of the bicycle wheel. I also am going to bring in one more large floral piece, layering it over the second yellow geometric circle, and I like the softness that that adds there. Again, it also brings the line of the florals going diagonal through the page along with those circles, so that works well. I'm also going to ground the bicycle by adding a few florals around that as well. I'm tucking some behind, just following the edge of that multi-floral circle. And I also like that that brings some blue to that side of the page. Another small floral tucked behind the top right corner of the main photo adds a bit of pink to that area. I'm finally feeling really happy with the way the circles and the flowers are looking, so I'm ready to add my title and journaling. My idea is to put them in the open corners on the bottom left and upper right, and you'll see here that I'm going to try the title in both areas just to see what I like better, and I end up having it land in the bottom left corner next to the bicycle. There are some open spaces, and I will fix that a bit later. But now I really want to come back and add some of these die cut leaves. I just got this new die from Cat Scrappiness. It's called Stitched Floral Dies or Stitch Foliage Dies, and I thought they would look really cute with these flowers. So I die cut several out of some green cardstock, and I'm just going to tuck them behind, which really helps these each of these floral clusters feel a bit more full and also just more natural and 3D. I love it. I'll come in and add another pink floral to the bike just because there was this awkward space to the right of the word jazz, and that feels a little bit better. And now I'm going to add some leaves by the happy day. This is a plant die cut, so I just cut off the little potted plant, and I'm just going to use the leaves. Now, one of my favorite dies is this Sentiment Strips die by Hero Arts. I have two of these because I know I'm going to use it every single layout. I've created a Word document just in, Microsoft Word that has my journal lines perfectly coordinated with this die, and so I can just type it in there, print it out, and then use this die to cut out these phrase strips. So it's a hard die to find, so if you do find it, grab it. It's saved me a ton of time in cutting out journaling strips, and I highly recommend it. So I mentioned that there was some blank spots around my title earlier, and I was going to come back and fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own little butterflies to go around that. I wanted to have them in a pink color that matched this layout specifically. So I took out some background stamps from my stash in several different patterns and just stamped them on some white cardstock with a light pink ink. Now I'm coming in with some teeny tiny butterfly dies and just cutting out several from all of the different patterns. Now I'm going to sprinkle them throughout the page almost as a tonal embellishment that just doesn't add a lot of visual weight but fills in the little spaces. I'm so happy with the way these little butterflies turned out, and it reminded me that I have so many tools in my stash that will help me to create my own embellishments whenever I run into a little spot that needs a little something extra. So you guys, this layout, it was a struggle. I stumbled the whole way through, but I have learned that if I stick a layout in my albums that I'm not completely satisfied with, every time I flip by it, I just cringe. I don't know why. I'm like, oh, it needs something else. So I challenge you to stick with that layout if it feels a little awkward until you do find a solution. Maybe use some items from your stash to create your own embellishments that will finish it off perfectly. All right, guys, that's it for today. Again, my name is Jana Eubank. Thank you so much for stopping by. We'll see you next time.